It is no secret that Governor Cuomo has been a leader in fighting to jumpstart the economy in Western New York to create jobs for us in our communities. He's been delivering some really great results in strengthening our community in a way like no other governor has done in the past. But it is, we can get in a round of applause for that. Absolutely. I don't know who that was, but I'm glad you started that round of applause because, quite frankly, I've served under a few governors, and there has not been one that has treated Buffalo and Western New York as well as Governor Cuomo. So let's give him applause again. But just as important as it is to support people who have jobs and support working families in our region, he's also fighting to make sure that working and middle-class people get the treatment and benefits that they also deserve. So today I am proud to join the governor in his latest effort in that fight, and that is a fight for paid family leave for every New Yorker. Paid family leave for every New Yorker. Paid family leave is one of the most crucial issues facing our workforce today. And why is that? And especially working women. Why is that? It's because, fortunately, our parents are living longer, and some of us start careers before we begin to have children. And these are important pieces of our family that we're not going to just leave and walk away from for a job. We're going to make sure that we have ways to take care of them. There's no other benefit that's more important to working families, and particularly working women, than paid family leave. Whether that woman has to care for her children or her parents or another family member. The truth is that women working throughout our community are often forced to put their careers just before their family. That's a very difficult decision to make. Most people are going to make the decision for their family. Why do we want to force them into that position when it could be done differently? It's done differently in other countries, and if we can't get it done right in our great country of the United States, guess what? We can get it done right in our great state of New York. Thanks to Governor Cuomo. I should tell you that in the Assembly we have already voted for this, and as long as I've been your representative in the 141st District, I have voted for the paid family leave. It is my hope that with the support that we have this year with our governor, that we will get this through the New York State Senate, and we will have in the state of New York paid family leave. It is now my pleasure to introduce a gentleman who I know is going to lead the fight for paid family leave in the Senate, because he leads every correct fight that benefits this community every day as he is in the Senate. And I want to bring to the stage my friend, your friend, Senator Kennedy.
Good afternoon. How's everybody feeling today? Isn't it great to have the governor back in Buffalo? Well, I'll tell you, we are excited. We are excited about this opportunity. Thank you again, Governor Cuomo, for coming back to Buffalo with another progressive agenda for the people of the state of New York and the country. Over the past few years, Buffalo has taken part in an economic resurgence that's brought new opportunity to the working people of Buffalo, of Western New York, and has led the way across the state. Thanks to Governor Cuomo's Buffalo Billion initiative, we've placed a new focus on manufacturing and training our workforce to do the jobs of tomorrow. And we must continue to build on this momentum, a momentum that we all know, that we all can feel, that's palpable in our community. And enacting paid family leave must be our next big investment in our workforce. Offering paid family leave, yes. Offering paid family leave can help businesses retain workers, which in turn reduces training costs while boosting productivity. It boosts employee morale and ensures that workers are able to take the time they need to support their families at home, allowing them to focus and do better work. A math comprehension is simple here. Offering paid family leave will result in an even stronger workforce and a stronger economy in Western New York and across New York State. So not only is it good for business, it's good for our workers. Today, only 12% of American people have access to paid family leave. 12%. That's unacceptable. Yet virtually every other country in the world offers some form of this policy. It's time for the United States to catch up, and it's time for New York State to lead the way. I'm proud to join Governor Cuomo in this initiative. I'm proud to join Assemblywoman Crystal Peoples-Stokes in this initiative, and it's time for my Senate colleagues to follow suit and finally enact paid family leave here in the state of New York. There is no more time to wait. The time is now to get this done. And another individual that's been leading the way in progressive initiatives in our community and across New York State, especially as the leader of our city, is the great Mayor Byron W. Brown. Please join me in bringing Mayor Brown to the stage.
Thank you, Senator Tim Kennedy. Thank you for your work and your partnership in government. Let's give our senator another round of applause. It's certainly an exciting day here today, and I'm proud to welcome Governor Cuomo back to Buffalo. He joined us just last week for a major jobs announcement, and now he's back again, continuing the fight for a stronger New York for all of us. The economic tide has been turning in the city of Buffalo, from strengthening our pharmaceutical sector with the recent addition of Athenix, where the governor announced just last week the $25 million headquarters coming to Buffalo, to revitalizing the East Side through the Northland Corridor. The Buffalo Billion is creating new opportunities for the people of our city. To keep this momentum going, we must continue to focus on generating more opportunities for all Western New Yorkers, including low-income and minority workers. Much of the workforce is made up of people who have no access to paid family leave, people who are at risk of losing their jobs because they need to stay home with their families. This is an injustice that impacts many workers in our community, but it has disproportionately affected minority and lower-income employees. These members of our community already have a tough time establishing economic security and making ends meet. Taking off of work to care for a sick loved one leaves many unable to pay for mounting medical bills and day-to-day expenses such as rent and electricity. We cannot allow workers to be forced to face these difficult choices or to be punished simply because they have a family to care for. It's not who we are as New Yorkers. With paid family leave, these workers would be able to care for their families and build their careers rather than worry about putting food on the table. We need paid family leave in New York State. And once again, Governor, our governor is absolutely right. Paid family leave is a critical step that we must take to protect the future of all workers and their families. Now, please join me in welcoming a fighter who always puts the working people of our community first, our great governor, Governor Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Oh, it's a better afternoon than that. Good afternoon. It is great to be back in Buffalo. First to your dynamic mayor who is doing great, great work. Let's give him a big round of applause, Mayor Byron Brown. To Senator Tim Kennedy, who promises us he's going to deliver paid family leave through the Senate. He's not coming back to Buffalo. Senator Tim Kennedy. To Assembly Member Crystal Peoples-Stokes, who is the real deal, and she is always fighting the good fight. Let's give her a round of applause. to Controller Mark Schroeder, Paul Brown, to the mayors. Let's give them a round of applause. It is exciting to be back in Buffalo. You know, you take it for granted because you're here all the time, but I hope you appreciate the difference in the energy, the difference in the economy all through Western New York. I get a call from a buddy of mine who I hadn't seen in a while, who grew up in Buffalo, and he spent probably the first 30 years of his life in Buffalo, and then he moved away to another state. I don't know why, but that's a different story. And he is getting up a little bit, and they were doing a documentary on his life, and he came back to Buffalo with a TV crew to show where he grew up in the old neighborhood, etc. And he called me up afterwards. He hadn't been back in decades. And he called me up, and he said, you know, Andrew, you won't believe what's going on in Buffalo. I said, really? He said, I'm telling you, it's like a different place. The people are excited. There are cranes all over. The home values are going up. Jobs are going up. Young people are coming back. I said, really? Buffalo? He says, yeah, you have to go. You have to see. I said, I think I might. You know, it is amazing, the progress that you've made. And we're now building on that progress, you know. Energy begets energy. Negative energy begets negative energy. Well, positive energy begets positive energy. And you can feel the cycle is going in the right direction. So it's always good to be back. And we had another big announcement, as the mayor alluded to just last week, 500 more jobs for the city of Buffalo. And we're looking at 900 jobs in Dunkirk with the help of Mayor Willie Rosa, so let's give him a round of applause. We were disappointed by NRG, but it turned out okay at the end. Huh, Mayor? Let's talk about this today, and let me talk about it in a somewhat different way. I was talking to one of my daughters last week, and she hadn't heard the State of the State address that I give. You know, when your daughters don't even listen to your speeches, you're in trouble. So I was going through with them what was in the State of the State. And I said, you know, the highlights are we're working to increase the minimum wage. We have paid family leave, have a big initiative on community schools, I have the Regional Economic Development Council, I have the Urban Revitalization Initiative, and I could see she was getting a little woozy with all these programs and all these names. I said, well, let me put it to you this way. We've made great progress across New York, but we have more to do. And this legislative agenda is going to be about a fight for fairness for New York's working families, because that's what this is really about. And that's what this is. You know, when you turn on the TV news at night, you see all these political pundits talking about the electorate and what's going on and how people feel. And they have all these terms. They're angry, they're frustrated, wage inequality, wage stagnation, economic anxiety. Working families feel abused. You know why? Because working families are abused. That's what this is really about. And it's that simple. Middle-class working families have been going backwards in this economy, and they've been going backwards for decades. The earning power of middle-class families has actually gone backwards, not just in the state, but in this nation. And it's been getting worse, and it's been getting worse. And it's not just about the money, it's about the relationship that the employee now has with the employer. We want to raise the minimum wage. Why? Because the minimum wage was started by FDR, great governor of New York, great president of this country. And the concept of the minimum wage was that if you work full-time, you should have a decent living. Those are his words, a decent living. Why? Because there's dignity in work. And if you work full-time, then you're upholding your end of the bargain. And whatever you do, whatever your contribution, whatever your skill set, you work full-time, you should have a decent life. What is decent? It means you don't drive a Cadillac, but you don't walk either, right? You have a decent life. You can afford for your family. You can live a good life. You can lead a decent life. You can live a life with dignity. That's what the minimum wage is supposed to be all about. The minimum wage in New York, you can't pay for food and pay for rent. It is not enough to sustain a decent lifestyle. And that's why we want to raise it to $15. Now, when they say, where did you get $15? $15 is too high. This is the answer, because you'll hear it. If you took the minimum wage in 1970 and just indexed it for the rate of inflation, that's all, just the rate of inflation from 1970 forward, you would come up to our $15 proposal today. That's why it's fair. Take the 1970s minimum wage and just index it to inflation. And then they'll say, well, I don't think government should be messing with the private marketplace. Let the private sector decide what it wants to pay. Really, we just went through a study of fast food companies because a big number of our minimum wage workers are in McDonald's, Burger King, etc. You know what actually happens at the end of the day? McDonald's pays minimum wage, which turns out to be about $18,000 per year. In New York, if you make $18,000 and you have a family, you're still below the poverty line. So you are still eligible for government assistance. So a McDonald's worker gets paid $18,000 from McDonald's, comes to the state of New York, qualifies for food stamps, qualifies for welfare. That's about an additional $7,000, $8,000 on top of their salary paid for by the taxpayers. So they're not living on what McDonald's pays them. They're living on McDonald's $18,000 and then your $7,000 in government aid. So we wind up subsidizing McDonald's, Burger King, and all these companies that are paying a sub-living wage, the taxpayers. That's interfering with the private sector. Why are the taxpayers in New York subsidizing McDonald's and Burger King, which, by the way, are making billions of dollars a year? We have no business being in the hamburger business in the first place. Let them pay their workers a fair wage and let us get out of the business. And it's not just the wages. It's about the relationship of the employer and the employee. The employees have less respect in this marketplace than they did previously. And that's what paid family leave is all about. There's a sense that a worker today, especially a low-wage worker, is a replaceable commodity. That if it doesn't work out with you, you know what? I'll get another one. And that there's a line of people who need that job, and you really aren't in a position to negotiate or to request anything because you're ultimately replaceable. You're like a laptop computer now. Laptop breaks, I throw it out, I get a new one. If an employee goes to their employer and says, you know what, I have a situation at home, I need time off. At one time, I believe the relationship, an employer would say, God bless you, I'll work with you, we'll figure it out. But not today. You go to an employer today and you say, I need a few weeks off to take care of my parent. They'll say, take a few weeks. As a matter of fact, take whatever you want because you're not coming back. You know, that is the attitude, that you can be replaced. And we're saying we should restore balance to that relationship. Yes, we want to work, and yes, we want to be productive. But we also want to live our lives, and we also want to honor our family and respect our family. And life is not just about work. Life is being there at the important times. When someone is on their deathbed, literally, when a parent is on their deathbed, a family member is on the deathbed, those weeks that you spend, those hours that you spend with that person, that's everything. That is everything. I lost my father last year. I kicked myself. I wish I had spent more time because we knew we were losing him. And I'm working, everything's so busy, It's all baloney. What was important was to spend that time with him, have those conversations. Just be there for someone, just so they know you're there. You have people who have a new child. That's the time to be home and enjoy that child and let that child know who you are and spend that quality time bonding with that child. It's not always about work. And we're at a place now where our employees don't have that relationship where they can do that. And that's what paid family leave is all about. If a person has a life crisis, a situation like we've been talking about, they should be allowed to stay home without going broke. And that's what an employee-funded paid leave program is all about. And that's what we want to pass this year. And the economic inequality that we're talking about is actually compounded and worse by the racial inequality that we're dealing with. Because make no mistake, all of this, it's bad to be poor and white, but the numbers are worse if you're poor and black or poor and brown. And it's not even close. And when we talk about fairness and justice and opportunity and a fairness agenda, we also have to understand that economic inequality starts in black and brown communities very, very young. You know where the educational inequality, the economic inequality starts? In the first grade. It starts when we send children to a public school that is a failing public school. And we have failing public schools in this state that have been failing for over 10 years. I mean, so just think about what we've been doing. You know it's a failing public school, and every year we send another grade of children to that school. Year after year after year. And we know that education and the education you get leads to what job you get. How can we just keep sending kids to these failing schools? And you know who's going to the failing schools? 90% black and brown. 90% black and brown. And you have to ask yourself, if it was 90% white, would we still be sending children to those failing schools year after year after year? And that is not fair, and that is not just. And if a child's not getting an education, you see it go all the way through their life. You go to a failing school, you don't get the education. The unemployment rate among young people, 20 years old, black and brown, is 40% unemployment, twice that of the white community. It's double that. And if you don't get a job, then you wind up hanging out in the wrong place and you wind up getting yourself into trouble. And that's why our state prison's 75% black and brown. It starts in first grade, it goes through the employment market, and then it winds up in the prison system. So that's what this battle is about this legislative session. We want to pay $15 a minimum wage because that's a fair wage so people can live with dignity. Paid family leave so they can be there for their family when their family needs them. Community schools so we turn around these failing schools and we give kids an opportunity from day one. Job training assistance for those teenagers so they're not unemployed. Close down those prisons and find a different way than spending $60,000 on a prison cell that does no good for anyone and returns a person in a worse condition than they went in. That's what this agenda is all about. And it's not a New York agenda, this is a national agenda. These are not New York problems. These are national problems. When you see people talking about the anger all across the country, that's why people are angry. And by the way, they should be angry. And you should be angry, and I should be angry, because an injustice against one is an injustice against all. And that's not what this country is about. And we're going to pass this agenda this year. We want to get this done in New York, for New York, but then we're going to take this justice agenda, this fairness agenda, and we're going to say to this nation, we did it in New York, you can do it anywhere in this country. And don't tell me you can't, because we are better than what we are doing. We believe in fairness, we believe in justice, we believe in opportunity. We're going to practice what we preach. We're going to make it the law of the land. We're going to get it done this April with your help. Thank you, and God bless you.